The massive multiplayer online role-playing game genre has been dominated by a small minority of powerhouse titles. But for every success story like World of Warcraft and EverQuest, there are dozens of MMOs that failed to capture the imaginations of online gamers. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 failed MMOs. For this list, we've picked the top 10 MMOs that, for whatever reason, be it shoddy gameplay, technical issues, or the inability to live up to their hype, were forced to shut down their servers.
Guess there's a few glitches in the system yet.
Number 10, Gods and Heroes, Rome Rising. Bringing to the table a unique setting filled with mythical tropes and brutal gladiatorial combat, Gods and Heroes Rome Rising crumbled before it could even get going. The classic case of too many eggs in one basket, developer Perpetual Entertainment made the mistake of simultaneously developing this game and Star Trek Online. The end result was not one but two half-baked MMOs with amazing source material. After selling thousands of lifetime subscriptions and physical copies, Gods and Heroes servers went on indefinite hold. Though they eventually came back online, it was far too late to recoup the disgruntled user base. Number 9, Auto Assault. Another MMO with a really cool concept. Auto Assault promised a massive post-apocalyptic wasteland sandbox filled with large-scale destruction, awesome weapons, and unparalleled vehicle customization. Unfortunately, Auto Assault failed to live up to its cool Mad Max-inspired themes. The world was extremely barren with very little to do. The gameplay didn't encourage teamwork, so you ended up with hundreds of players cruising around an empty map, soloing tedious objectives to grind for better cars. Spotty gameplay, combined with a low user base right out of the gate, led to a quick death for Auto Assault. Number 8, The Matrix Online.
Save your knuckles. You'll need them for other work.
Considering that the Wachowski brothers built this game as the official sequel to the film trilogy, The Matrix Online seems like it could have been totally badass. The ability to create your own Neo and bullet time and slow-mo kung fu your way through legions of agents was a dream come true for fans of the iconic science fiction franchise. Unfortunately, just like the second and third films, The Matrix Online caved under the weight of its own expectations. Despite bringing pretty cool features to the table, like awesome hand-to-hand fighting, The Matrix Online was totally mediocre, lacking the flair and style of the movies. Frequent server issues also contributed to the game's downfall. The Matrix Online certainly was not the one. Number 7, City of Heroes. An anomaly on this list, City of Heroes was actually a pretty awesome MMORPG with a loyal fanbase that stuck with the game until the servers were tragically shut down in 2012. With unanimously great reviews and feedback from its users, mostly due to its unique superhero-themed universe and awesome character building, City of Heroes seemed destined to find its permanent place alongside MMORPG titans like World of Warcraft.
Don't worry, statesman. I made certain he got a warm welcome.
However, sudden budget cuts and studio shutdowns by parent company NCSoft led to the ultimate closure of the game's servers. To this day, hardcore Heroes players are still pointing fingers and trying to figure out exactly what happened to their beloved MMORPG.
We have detected their approach, my lord.
Number 6, Warhammer Online, Age of Reckoning. Warhammer, despite its firm place in the pantheon of tabletop gaming, is a property that has for years failed to translate into a satisfying gaming experience, with maybe a few exceptions. Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning actually came pretty close though. Developed by Mythic, who had an amazing MMORPG track record, and promising tons of innovative gameplay mechanics like huge-scale PvP battles, the hype surrounding Warhammer Online was definitely palpable. Unfortunately, the end result was kind of a cluttered mess. The game was unbalanced, with many classes being totally useless, and having put so much emphasis on PvP and large-scale questing, the underlying game felt kind of mediocre. Ultimately, Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning was just too bloated and unconventional for its own good.
No, petty mortals, that when I find you, your flesh will wither.
Number 5. Star Wars Galaxies.
Star Wars Galaxies.
Though it never really blew anyone away, Star Wars Galaxies eventually established itself as a viable MMO for fans of the series. Was it overly complicated? Definitely. Was it riddled with bugs and wonky mechanics that sometimes detracted from its gameplay? Absolutely. Fans still flocked to the game, however, partially due to the fandom, and partially because Star Wars Galaxies managed to make you feel like you were actually part of a giant breathing universe. Star Wars Galaxies ultimately died due to meddling from its developers, Sony Online Entertainment. In a misguided attempt to revive the game, they changed and streamlined everything, turning this MMORPG into a weak third-person shooter. The changes alienated hardcore fans, and Star Wars Galaxies never recovered. Number 4. Final Fantasy XIV. An amazing example for the developers of other struggling MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV went from being one of the darkest moments in this hallowed RPG series to being one of the most successful and beloved MMORPGs currently on the market. When Square Enix released the original iteration of Final Fantasy XIV, it was universally panned. Filled with terrible half-baked ideas, boring lifeless gameplay, and a myriad of technical issues, Final Fantasy XIV was not only a terrible Final Fantasy game, but it was a terrible MMORPG. Luckily, Square Enix took the high road on this one, re-releasing the game eventually as Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, almost completely rebuilding the game's systems from the ground up. Number 3. APB, All Points Bulletin. As an attempt to be Grand Theft Auto Online before it even existed, All Points Bulletin crashed and burned right at the starting line, sporting absolutely terrible controls and gameplay. An open-world crime and gang life simulator definitely seemed cool, but things become tricky when it's a chore to even get your car from point A to point B. Basically the opposite of Final Fantasy XIV, APB was re-released after the closure of its original developers as APB Reloaded. Instead of actually making the game better, however, the new developers decided to fill what was already a troubled universe with microtransactions. Yay! Number 2. Tabula Rasa. Garnering a lot of pre-release hype based on its creator alone, Tabula Rasa failed to separate itself from the hundreds of other MMORPGs releasing around the same time. The creative mind of Richard Garriott, the man behind the granddaddy of all MMORPGs, Ultima Online, was enough for many hardcore gamers to put their dollars behind Tabula Rasa. A sci-fi space opus with intense combat and interesting world-building ideas, this title had so much potential. Before long, however, vicious infighting between Garriott and publisher NCSoft led to unstable support for the game, and eventually a huge lawsuit ensued. Ultimately, Tabula Rasa shut its doors before it could really solidify itself in the cutthroat MMORPG market. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
Ouch! 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 Ouch!
Number 1. Vanguard, Saga of Heroes. All of the legendary MMORPG minds and heavy-hitting publishers in the world couldn't stop Vanguard, Saga of Heroes from releasing in a completely broken state and quickly earning the dubious honors of being the biggest bust in MMO history. Developed by the minds behind the original EverQuest, Vanguard went through pre-release hell, being dropped by Microsoft mid-development. The sudden lack of funding forced Sigil to release Vanguard early. The end result was almost completely unplayable, plagued with a laundry list of crippling bugs, unfulfilled gameplay promises, and a boring and empty world. Vanguard Saga of Heroes looked pretty, and that's about it. this game couldn't even hold a candle to EverQuest, leaving thousands of hungry MMORPG fans completely disappointed. Do you agree with our list? Did we forget any notably disappointing MMOs?
I can't wait to captain one someday.
For more massively awesome top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Well, you'll be making harder decisions than that.